So we're going to do running stitch now. It's a very easy stitch, one of the first ones you learn when you learn to sew. So you come up through your fabric, you go back in, come out, pull your stitch in and out, and you repeat that. You can change direction. Around you go. You can change stitch size, so you can do little tiny ones, and you can run them on the needle and then give it a tug, and there you go. So it's a lovely little simple stitch. You can use it as an outline stitch, you can use it as a tracking stitch, you can make letters with it, and it's a really cute little effective stitch to use. So there we go, running stitch. So the next stitch I'm going to show you is chain stitch, and alongside chain stitch is also Lazy Daisy. Ignore my tram lines from previously, I haven't ironed them out. So chain stitch is a lovely one. It's a good connecting stitch. It's very useful for making words, making letters. You can change the size of it, and it's a pretty stitch. So you start by taking the thread away, and you come out, and then you go back in just beside it, and then come out a bit further down. Make sure that your thread is coming up through the loop, and there's your first chain. When you do the second one, you go into the loop. Don't be tempted to come outside of it anywhere. Back in where your stitch has just come from, and then you come out a little bit further down and make sure that your stitch comes through the loop, and there's your second chain. So always inside this loop, don't stitch outside, you get an uneven look. So down we go again. Make sure that your needle is going to come out inside that chain. And there we go. So I'll do one more inside the loop, out you come, make sure your needle's inside that loop, and there's your chain. Now to finish a chain off, if you let go of that, that would lift and it would spoil the chain. So always go over the top. So from this side, over the top, and you've locked your chain. Okay, so there's your chain. Now Lazy Daisy, I'll come out down here. Lazy Daisy is very similar to chain stitch, but instead of it being a line, what you're going to do is a circular motion. So you come out, go back in where you've just come out, bring your stitch, same thing, like a little chain, but this time you're going to lock that stitch off. Then you're going to go back to the centre, and I'll twizzle it round a bit, and then back to the centre again, out with your stitch, make another little looped stitch there, and then lock that off over the top of that loop, and then you're going to come back into the centre and out, go back in where you've come out. Let's make this one a bit bigger, and there's your loop, lock it off. Now can you see what's happening? You're making petals. So if you carry on, you'd make a daisy, which is why it's called Lazy Daisy. So Lazy Daisies are flower stitches, and again they're really lovely stitches to join. Say you've got lace and you just want to attach it but you don't want to stitch it on, you can go to the centre and do that. They're lovely little centre stitches for circular additions to slow stitching. I use these sometimes when I'm doing crazy patchwork. I use these at junctions, and so where the fabrics meet, I use a Lazy Daisy quite often because they're just very pretty to just pop in. So there's a Lazy Daisy. So the stitch I'm going to show you now is called stem stitch. So I've come up here, you come in and make a stitch. I'm going to make big stitches so you can see. So you go back in, but you come out halfway down. And then when you do the next one, you want to make sure that your long stitch here is always on the same side. So I'm pulling it towards me. I'm coming back halfway. So there's half my stitch. This is the other half of my stitch, so that it's the same length as the first one, but I'm coming out at the end of my first stitch. So I'm creating another long stitch, but it's alongside. So it gives you a much thicker stitch than if you did perhaps a back stitch, because you're overlapping. So can you see you've done it again? So you always want to have this slight diagonal look, but you do create a lovely big stitch. So I'm going to make sure that my needle always comes out on the same side. There we go. And then again I'll do one more. So you're going in, coming out at the end of the stitch you've just done, pulling it tight, and there's your stem stitch. So it's a very simple stitch to do. You don't need to be horrendously neat and tidy. So that's your stem stitch.